Before we start, I want to say this up front. This is one of those stories that sounds fake until you realize there's no way someone would make this up. Everything you're about to hear comes straight from Reddit, told in the words of someone who genuinely didn't think a normal day would turn into something unforgettable. If you've ever trusted the wrong person or stayed quiet because you didn't want to cause a scene, this story might hit closer to home than you expect. Story 1. My hairstylist secretly kept my hair and I found out by accident. I honestly never thought I'd be the kind of person to post something like this, but the more time passes, the more I realize how disturbing this whole situation really was. For context, I'm a woman in my 30s, and this all happened the week of Thanksgiving. I'd been seeing the same hairstylist for about 9 months. Nothing fancy, just trims, styling, that kind of thing. I'd probably seen them 5 or 6 times total. Everything had always felt normal, professional, friendly, but not overly so. That Saturday, I decided to make a big change. I went from very long hair, down to my lower back, to a short A-line bob. It was a dramatic cut, but I was excited about it. Because of how much length came off, my stylist took a picture of the hair on the floor. They said it was for social media, to show the transformation, before and after type stuff. I didn't think twice about it. That part was completely normal. They swept up my hair, set the dustpan on the counter for a moment, and then carried it toward the back of the salon. Again, nothing strange. People have to clean up somewhere. They stepped outside for a smoke shortly after, and that's when I realized I needed to use the bathroom. The restroom was also in the back. As I was walking through, I noticed a small, clear plastic tote sitting on a table, no lid. What caught my eye first was my name, written on it. At first, I told myself I was overthinking it. I figured maybe it was temporary or something unrelated, but then I looked closer. Inside the tote was hair. Not just hair from that day, I could tell immediately. There were different lengths, different colors from older trims. It looked like hair from multiple appointments. Mixed in with it were things like dried flowers or potpourri, maybe sand, I'm not even sure. And then I saw printed photos, pictures of my haircuts, with dates. The printer was right next to the tote, and sitting on the printer was the photo they had just taken of my freshly cut hair on the floor. I looked around the room. There were no other containers like this, nothing labeled with anyone else's name, just mine. I stood there frozen for a few seconds, trying to convince myself there had to be some innocent explanation, but my stomach dropped. I took a picture of it with my phone and went back to my chair. When my stylist came back inside, I casually mentioned that I'd gone to the restroom. Their entire demeanor changed. They didn't say anything, but they looked startled, nervous. I didn't confront them. I'm socially anxious, and honestly, I was scared. I just wanted to get out of there. They finished styling my hair. I paid. I left. On the drive home, the uneasiness turned into full-blown disgust. The more I looked at the photo I'd taken, the worse I felt. About an hour later, I texted them. I sent the picture and said I didn't understand what I was seeing. I asked them to explain why they had a container of my hair. I told them I wasn't comfortable with it and asked them to discard everything. I also said that despite loving my haircut, I thought it would be best if I found a different stylist. They didn't respond. The next morning, Sunday, I woke up to my phone buzzing non-stop. Even though I had Do Not Disturb on, it overrides if someone keeps calling or texting repeatedly. There were messages from my stylist starting at 3:49 in the morning. They said things like I was overreacting, that keeping hair wasn't a big deal, that it was their property now because it was biological material they possessed. They warned me not to switch stylists, said it was a small town and people talk, that I might not find anyone willing to take me as a client after this. They claimed I owed a client separation fee. First, they said $350. Later, it became $375. They said they kept my hair because it meant something to them. I didn't reply. That afternoon, the calls started. 14 calls in a single day. Voicemails every other call. Most were just begging me to call back, but 2 of them I'll never forget. In one, they were crying, saying they were scared I wouldn't come back, that they just liked how my hair felt, that's why they kept it. The second voicemail came close to midnight. They said they'd gotten rid of the hair, except for one lock. And then they said they realized they liked watching my hair burn more than they liked keeping it. I didn't sleep that night. By that point, I knew I was going to the police.
Even if nothing could be done, I needed this documented.
Monday morning, before I left for the station, I got an email from their business email address. It was an invoice for $375, labeled Client Breach of Contract Fee. The body of the email just said it was for being a bitch. I replied once, stating that we had no contract and that they were to cease all communication with me immediately. Then I went to the police. They took my statement, the texts, the emails, the call logs, the voicemails. The officer told me that, at minimum, this was harassment. The voicemail about burning my hair was especially concerning. They advised me to contact a lawyer. Despite that, the messages kept coming. Calls, texts, emails, even a Happy Thanksgiving text, like nothing was wrong. A few days later, things escalated again. I got a call from my credit card company's fraud department. Someone had tried to cancel my card using my name, phone number, and the last 4 digits of the card. It was my stylist. They failed, thankfully, but the company provided a reference number and said they could release recordings to law enforcement with a warrant. I requested a new card immediately. I also changed my phone number and handed my old phone over to the police as evidence. Eventually, officers went to speak with the stylist directly. After that visit, the communication finally stopped. A temporary no-contact order was issued. I also filed a complaint with the state licensing board, and they're now investigating. I'm safe, but I don't think I'll ever fully shake how violating this felt. I went in for a haircut, and I walked out realizing someone had been collecting pieces of me for months, without my knowledge, without my consent, and then punished me for noticing. I still love my haircut. I just wish I'd never met the person who cut it. Story 2. I accidentally lied about my favorite food and kept it up for 11 years. I'm not sure if this makes me a terrible person or just painfully awkward, but I've been lying to my wife for over a decade about my favorite food. When we first started dating, we were 16. It was that early, innocent stage where you're still trying to impress each other and not mess anything up. About a month in, she asked me what my favorite meal was. She said she wanted to cook it for me for our 1-month anniversary. Without thinking too hard, I told her chicken parmesan. Here's the thing. Chicken parmesan is good. I like it. I just wouldn't call it my favorite. What I meant to say was chicken Alfredo, but at the time, it didn't feel important. And when she surprised me with a homemade chicken parm, cooked completely from scratch, I could tell she'd put so much effort into it. It was delicious. She was proud. I thanked her and told her I loved it. And I never corrected myself. Fast forward 11 years. We've now been together for over a decade, married for 2 years, and about once a month, sometimes more, she still makes chicken parmesan for me. Because in her mind, it's my favorite meal in the world. Every single time I eat it, I smile, I say thank you. And every single time, a tiny voice in my head says, "You could have stopped this at year 1. At this point, it feels way too late to tell the truth. How do you casually say, "Hey, remember that thing you've been lovingly cooking for me for 11 years? Yeah, that was based on a misunderstanding." It doesn't feel like honesty anymore. It feels like cruelty. So I asked myself, am I obligated to tell the truth now? Or is this one of those harmless lies you just live with forever? Eventually, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The guilt wasn't eating me alive or anything, but it was always there, like a running joke I was the only one in on. So one night, I finally told her. I said, "I need to tell you something, and I feel really stupid about it." She listened. I explained the whole thing. How I was 16, how I panicked, how chicken parmesan is good, just not my favorite, how this all spiraled completely out of control. She stared at me for half a second, and then she started laughing. Not just a chuckle, full-on, can't catch her breath laughing. She laughed so hard she had to sit down. Just when I thought she was done, she'd start up again. I don't think I've ever seen her laugh like that in my life. She told me she couldn't believe I'd carried this for 11 years. She said the fact that I ate it every time without saying a word was both sweet and unbelievably dumb. Now it's an inside joke between us. She still makes chicken parmesan sometimes, but now she asks, "Is this still your favorite?" every single time. And honestly,
I don't know if telling the truth fixed something or just changed it. All I know is this. If you're 16 and someone asks you your favorite food, think very carefully before you answer, because you might be committing to it for the next decade of your life. I keep thinking about how easily this could have been ignored, how simple it would have been to say nothing, to walk away, to convince myself I was overreacting. And that's probably the scariest part. Not what happened, but how close it came to never being addressed at all. So now I want to ask you, if you were in this situation, would you have spoken up sooner? Or would you have done exactly what I did? Let me know what you think. And if you want to hear more real stories like this, stories that start small and spiral fast, you're in the right place. Thanks for listening.